Gerard, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
We're looking forward to seeing you in a couple of days here in D.C. at the 930 Club.
Oh, man, I miss that place. I'm very excited to be back there.
Can I just ask you, and don't blow smoke up the 930 Club's ass, but when everybody talks about the 930 Club, they always get kind of whimsical, and I'm like, what sets this venue apart? I mean, us living here, maybe we're used to it and we don't get what the vibe is. What's the vibe for somebody coming in from out of town to play that place?
I think, it's really interesting because I think it's one of the first venues that you experience as a young band starting out, as a support band like we were doing, but it's like one of the first places that you're like, it's an extremely legit venue, it sounds great, the room is great. It always comes down to the energy of the city, though, and the energy in that room is always great, so that's actually what it is, and I don't know, something about that logo sticks in your head. You never forget it, and there's a lot of history. And so whenever a room has something like that, like one of my other favorite rooms is Irving Plaza in New York, and it's another one of those rooms that has that energy. And there's these rooms all over the country that people have seen shows since they were little kids. They saw all their favorite bands there, and so that's really what it is. It's that kind of thing.
You and let's take a step back for a second. I'm listening to your voice, and usually when I talk to singers on the phone, they got that little bit of hoarseness or scratchiness in their voice. You sound pitch perfect. You must be feeling great right now.
Yeah, well, we're one show into this part of the run. So
give me a couple of weeks. It'll sound all hoarse.
Yeah, I was doing sound check yesterday, and I was literally saying to Andy, our sound guy, I was like, what do you think we'll get out of this voice? Like 2.5 shows, before it's blown out? So.
Well, at least keep it till Tuesday, and then whatever happens.
Well, I have the day off before the 930 Club, so that's good.
Oh,
so then basically what happens is you start the tour, you have to blow your voice out, and then you have a day off, it repairs itself, and then you're good. You actually have to shred your voice in order to sound good live.
It's almost like getting calluses if you're a worker or you're a weightlifter or something. You gotta get calluses on there.
Same exact thing has to happen when you're performing.
I got so much stuff I want to talk to you about because you have just been let's start in January. Did you guys know that American Idol was basically going to make Sing the theme song of their promotion for the new season?
Yeah, they asked us about it, and it was the same reason we went ahead and did the song on Glee, because when they came and said, hey, this is a really big thing, it's on major TV, we're like, okay, well, this is like a really good opportunity to get this song with very important lyrics out there for people to hear, and then it worked because lots of people that would have never heard the band are, they're listening to this anti-corporate theme song.
Yeah.
And it's insane, it's in American Idol, and then it was in Glee, and then by the time it hit Glee, it was like people really were understanding the lyrics to the point that, Glenn Beck felt the need to go ahead and talk about them, which is a great thing.
Well, we're going to get to the Glenn Beck thing in a second. You did the Idol, you did Glee. Basically, you were Fox's house band for about 2 months there. But here's the interesting thing: as I was looking back, you guys weren't in the country for a majority of that time.
No.
What was it like for you being overseas? Because I'm sure you're getting blown up from your friends and people who know you who didn't know that you were going to be all over Fox for 2 months. And what was the reaction from them where you're like, hey, man, I know you're not here. They're playing the crap out of your song right now.
It was interesting. I don't know. We didn't hear too much because I guess people that, aside from maybe parents and stuff, like people we're just close with, I don't know that they watch any of that stuff. So we said yes, and we knew how big the shows were, but we're not like avid watchers of either. So it was just like, all right, well, this is going to go out and it's going to do its thing. So we just let it do that, and we didn't really pay attention. That's kind of what we do. We do something, we put it out, and then we don't look back at it. We play the shows, and that's the new kind of work, or we write new material. That's what we do. We don't really look back ever. So
it's interesting, and I was thinking about it at the time, and I'm like, their song is all over the place, and yet they're kind of MIA in this country at this point. And usually they put it together where it's like, okay, we'll have our song here, and then we'll go play Jimmy Fallon or Kimmel or something.
Right.
And you guys went the other way, where it was like, here's our song. We're not going to comment on it. We're not talking about it because we're not even here in the country.
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, I think you kind of canvas the world that way. Like instead of just like, and another thing too is like, especially after Parade, we had the song on two big things. We didn't want to like oversaturate and just be everywhere and just like be in people's faces all the time. So if you had seen us on like every nighttime show, like, at the same time. It just would have been this kind of, like, engineered assault thing, and that's not what this record was about. This record is about getting into the DNA and infecting things, and just kind of, so it was cool because we were over doing our thing in Europe, and meanwhile the song was being played, so we were being heard regardless. You know?
Yeah, I like, and you used a really cool word, canvas, and it's a good. Now that you say that, it makes total sense because it's like, all right, you know what? Somebody else is doing our work here in the United States, playing our song. We're gonna go to Europe, and we're gonna work on them while somebody else is working on us here.
Yeah,
I like that.
Absolutely, it was. Because we have all these fans out in Europe that hadn't seen us in years, and we got to go back to Germany, which was amazing. I think those were like some of my favorite shows in Europe were the ones in Germany. So it was great to reconnect with all those people, and that's what we wanted to do. So, and we knew there'd be a time where we made it to America. So.
Yeah, and here you are. So it's all good.
Yep.
So let me ask you about Danger Days, the latest album.
Okay.
At what point, because you always hear, like every once in a while, a band will put out a concept album, and it's not something that happens all the time. At what point do you say to yourself, wait a second, all these songs, I know they're all coming from the same sort of memory bank as we're doing our writing. At what point do you say to yourself, this kind of all goes together, and there might be a thread that runs through the entire album?
Right. Well, there always is that. I mean, for us, that always is the way it is. In fact, that's why we didn't put out that first attempt of the record, because it didn't have that thread, And I definitely wouldn't call Danger Days a concept. It has this high concept of, it has a high concept of this, pirate radio station versus corporation, and there's gangs and there's DJs, and it's kind of like the Warriors and Logan's Run, so it's got that, but that's it. Like, every song on there is real, every song on there is the truth, and every song on there is extremely direct in its lyrical composition. So, but they all should always have a vibe of this is a snapshot of who we are at this time. This is what we want to say right now.
Mm-hmm. Let me just ask you a side note. I'm a huge Warriors fan. And you mentioned Logan's Run, which I haven't seen. Do you recommend that if somebody who likes the Warriors?
Well, they're very different films, but it's around the same era where it was Escape from New York.
Yeah. Bare bones kind of minimalism.
It's more science fiction. But again, it deals with the same kind of thing as the record. Logan's Run is very kind of almost anti-corporate or anti-society. And it's about somebody that, I think it's a great film. It's about somebody that kind of, realizes that society's wrong and turns his back on it and tries to kind of fight against that society and gets hunted down for it. So. All
right, it'll go in the Netflix queue. Thank you for the
It's worth it.
All right, before I let you go, I got to ask you what is going on with Glenn Beck and My Chemical Romance?
I don't think anything. I think he... luckily, he was paying attention to lyrics. They bothered him because it's how I feel about what's happening in America and corporate cleanup and kind of everything being sterilized. And he took offense to that, which he probably should have, being who he is, and that was kind of it. And I gave my response, which was not snarky and really or mean or angry, because I'm not angry about it at all. I think it's America. He has his view, I have mine. And we disagree. That's what America's about. We're never going to see eye to eye on it. He's just upset that it was on network television for everybody to hear those lyrics. That's all it was.
Do you give him at least a little bit of props for listening and getting the lyrics?
We got him wrong, so I think him full credit. But absolutely, yeah, it was extremely exhilarating to see somebody stirred up by something you wrote. You got to think about it's been so long since even the birth of punk rock and those kind of lyrics irritating people. Now everything is so. It's been around so long. You see carbon copies of things that people don't get bothered by stuff anymore. So you have to. It's not that the goal is to bother somebody, but you need to attack different things. You need to find out what really is the heart of the problem, what really bothers me. I'm not going to, complain about school. I'm not going to complain about parents. I'm not going to, talk about drugs in that sense or anything, but I'm going to talk about, what I feel happens in America. And that bothered them. So I was just glad something could bother somebody these days.
So you're kind of your attitude is I'm happy to I welcome the discourse and let's get into it and let's talk about it.
Completely, yeah. You know, I mean, again, like I don't even know if I would sit down and talk to him about it because I don't think we're ever gonna have an eye to eye on it. We're just not gonna see him and people like him and his corporation that he works for and stuff. They function based off the opposing view of mine. You know, like that's how they make their money. So they're not going to agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with them. So there's nothing really to talk about.
So your attitude then is, all right, he said these things. Here's my written response. I'm moving on.
Yeah, that's it. You know, like, in fact, I almost didn't write a response because my response is the song. Like, that's
true.
I wrote the lyrics, like, you know, I don't apologize for a single lyric in that. And the fact that people got to hear it on TV was awesome for us, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's my response.
Well, very cool. Gerard, thank you so much for giving us the time. And I'll see you on Tuesday night at the 9:30 Club. Looking forward to the show.